بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا وعظيمنا وحبيب قلوبنا وشفيع نفوسنا أبي القاسم محمد اللهم صل وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين وأصحابه الغر الميامين. الحمد لله الذي جعلنا من المتمسكين بولاية سيدي ومولاي علي بن أبي طالب. اللهم الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. أما بعد، يقول الإمام زين العابدين في رسالة الحقوق: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وأما حق أبيك فتعلم أنه أصلك وأنك فرعه وأنك لولاه لم تكن، فمهما رأيت في نفسك مما يعجبك فاعلم أن أباك أصل النعمة عليك فيه، واحمد الله واشكره على قدر ذلك، ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله. The first of our salawat in honor of Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. The second in honor of Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa alihi. The third with your loudest voices in honor of Imam Sahib al-Asr wal-Zaman. Respected scholars, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. The passage in question concerning the rights of the father is taken from Risalatul Huquq of Imam Zain al-Abidin salawatullah wa salamuhu alayhi. Risalatul Huquq is viewed as one of the greatest pieces of literature in Islamic thought, and according to many scholars is viewed after Nahj al-Balagha as one of the greatest pieces and one of the greatest documents from the Imams of Ahl al-Bayt. In order to understand the greatness of this document, there is a need for us to understand the context in which it was written. As we know, Imam Zain al-Abidin was born in the 38th year after Hijrah, and therefore on the 10th of Muharram would have been approximately 23 years old. Of course, he could not participate in the Battle of Karbala because of an illness that had affected him, although he had tried to help his father in those most tragic and most difficult of times. As the narration tells us, he asks for a sword and he asks for a stick. When he is asked why, the reply comes, I want a stick so I may stand up, and a sword so that I may defend my father. But the reply that comes from his father is that you have to remain patient, for you are the Imam after me, and therefore you have to look after this message. And indeed, he saw the tragic events of the 10th of Muharram, and the events of the movement from Karbala towards Kufa, from Kufa towards Sham, back to Karbala, and indeed back to Medina. And indeed this would have affected many a personality, for many people come forward with a stress or a trauma after witnessing what happens on the battlefield. That there are many in the world today who come back from wars with a trauma, a stress that emerges, which come forward with a statement of post-traumatic stress disorder. And the Imam lived for 34 years approximately after the 10th of Muharram, having died in the 95th year after Hijrah. And on many occasions, without a doubt, the psychological consequences of the 10th of Muharram still affected him. For example, we find a narration where Abu Hamza al-Thamali comes towards him and asks him, when he looks at him crying, he says to him, you still cry after the events of the 10th of Muharram, years after these events happened? To which he replies, Yaqub cried over Yusuf, even though Yusuf was still alive, whereas I saw my father and my brothers and my family butchered in front of me. And therefore, without a doubt, the psychological effect was still there. But unfortunately, in many circles, when people discuss those 34 years after Karbala, many times it's more of an emotional than an intellectual discussion. It's more of a man who seems to have been affected by this trauma than a man who is the Imam of Allah on this earth. And therefore you found that when you look at the life of the Imam after Karbala, truly it's a miracle the way he reformed that which was around him. Because he recognized in his position as the Imam, the first of his roles was of course to disseminate the knowledge of those who had come before him. The second was to protect the sunnah of his grandfather. But the third and most important role was to reform the Muslim Ummah. Why? Because when he witnessed what had happened in Karbala and what had happened in Kufa and in Sham, he recognized that there were many Muslims by name, but not many Muslims in terms of their practice. He recognized that there were many who were performing the acts of worship, but without having a vision of what these acts of worship actually meant. That he witnessed that there were many who would in their salah, in their tashahhud, come forward and say, Allahumma salli wa sallim wa barik ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali Sayyidina Muhammad. Yet at the same time they had butchered the whole of Al Muhammad. They had recited the words, but had not recognized or understood the meaning of that which they were reciting. And he witnessed that some of the greatest companions of Rasulullah and some of the greatest sons of the companions of Rasulullah actually took part in the butchering of Abu Abdullah. That you find people like Sahal ibn Sa'ad al-Sa'idi, people like Abdul Rahman ibn Abu Bakr, Abdullah ibn Umar ibn al-Khattab, Abdullah ibn Zubair, were all alive at the time when Abu Abdullah was killed. Yet you don't find any of them standing up to defend the Imam. And therefore the Imam recognized that the religion needed a reform. It had become a culture, not a religion anymore. Because we can all fall in the trap of following this religion of Islam as a culture. There are good times and there are bad times. There are times you wear black and there are times you wear white. It's the easiest culture to follow. The Imam wanted the vision to be more than a culture. He wanted the people to go back to the root, which was a religion rather than a culture. And therefore he began disseminating knowledge through this particular piece known as Risalatul Huquq. Risalatul Huquq is translated in the English language as the Treatise of Rights. And it's available in virtually every language in the world today. It's translated. And there is a tafsir of Risalatul Huquq written by Qudratullah al-Mashayikhi, which has been translated by Lisa Morgan in a quite outstanding way. Risalatul Huquq, when it says Treaty of Rights, what did the Imam mean when he named this document the Treaty of Rights? The Imam wanted to show that this religion, the religion of Islam, had a vision which catered for the rights of the human being, a vision which catered for the rights of fellow human beings, a religion which catered for the rights of God. The religion of Islam recognized the fact that we need to understand not only our creation, but the creation of those around us and the rights of God over us. That's why if somebody today was to come and ask me, what is Islam? I would say Islam is Risalatul Huquq. And I would say it with the utmost confidence, that there is not a single piece of work which explains the religion of Islam like Risalatul Huquq. And the embarrassment and the shame is that the majority of the followers of Al Muhammad have never read the work. That's the embarrassment. That you'll find many, if you ask them about Zainul Abidin, they'll say, yes, he was crying a lot after Karbala. That's all he did? So there's nothing else an Imam does but cry? The Imam wrote this document. Within the document there are 50 rights which he examines. The right of God, the right of the self, the right of the tongue, the right of the eye, the right of the hand, the right of the private part, a taboo subject on our minbars. Zain al-Abidin doesn't think it's a taboo. The right of the mother, the right of the father, the right of prayer, the right of fasting, the right of Hajj, the right of your children, the right of your neighbor, the right of the non-Muslim, the right of your servants. More than these rights, they are all examined in a way which takes you to the very essence of this religion. That this religion wasn't built for Muslims. This religion was built for the whole of humanity. This religion had an ethos which sought to encourage many to understand the very essence of their humanity. And that's why the right I'd like to examine tonight from Risalatul Huquq is the right of the father in the religion of Islam. Why? Because we know very well our fathers can make or break our futures. As in, if a person is blessed with a father who has a beautiful vision about life and a great understanding, then you'll find all of us will have the healthiest of futures. All of us will understand what the future means through the principles of the religion of Islam. Many a great father truly has acted as a father figure, somebody who encourages, somebody who comes forward and guides.